Hey everyone, thanks for trying to learn to play games. My name is Lance, and in today's video, look at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called Arcana Prophetia. This is a brand new game by the Aerie games. It is a two-player game that takes roughly 20 to 40 minutes to play, and is a competitive asymmetric game where one player is going to be playing the Fates, and the other player is going to be playing the Last Sovereign. The game itself is played over 9 rounds, where the players are trying to get the cards flipped to their side of things. For the Fates player, that player is trying to have the cards on the corrupted side. On the other side, the Last Sovereign player is trying to have the cards on the sanctified side. At the end of the 9th round, the players are going to total up all the cards that are on the cards that are showing their side of the card. Whichever player has more cards showing is going to be the winning player. So in this video, I'm going to take you through and show you some of the components in the game, and also show you a sample turn to give you a good idea how this game plays to help you decide on whether or not this is one you want to back on Kickstarter. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we can continue to grow, be able to produce this content. If you also want to get notified whenever I drop new videos, also give that notification bell a ring, as I'm constantly dropping new games covering new upcoming Kickstarters, unboxings, playthroughs, and teaching videos on some of the hottest games out there. So if you want to stay up to date, give that notification bell a ring, and let's go ahead and head to the table, and we'll see what this one's all about. I do also want to point out that all the materials you see here are prototype materials and are subject to change and look a lot better in the final production copy of the game. So let's go ahead and check this one out. The first component I'll look at are the Arcana cards, and there's going to be 2 complete decks included in the game. These decks are going to be numbered from 1 to 9, and each one of the cards is going to be unique in that deck. Now, at the beginning of the game, for your first couple games, there is a pre-constructed deck that is recommended for you to familiarize yourself with the game, but once you are familiar, then the players can tailor their deck in different ways, making a different deck for the game that they're looking to play. Each one of the cards in the Arcana deck is going to have a number at the top of the card, is going to have effects that will be carried out either for the corrupted player or the sanctified player, and then the name of the card on the bottom. These cards are also double-sided, one being a sanctified side and the other being the corrupted side of the card. Some cards will have a passive effect as well that will be carried out, and other cards will have a separate effect for each one of the different things, whether it is a corrupted effect or a sanctified effect. After your first couple games, each player also has some customized options that they can tailor the game a little bit more to their style. The Fates player is going to start out by choosing a face card that is going to change some of the core rules of the game for that player. And each one of these cards is going to work differently based on what the Fates player chooses. Once the Fates player has chosen a face, then the Last Sovereign player will get to choose one of the arch sigils that player wants to use for the game. And each one of these will have special effects that player will gain by using a sigil that they'll be able to gain throughout the game. And the last component I want to talk about is the spread or game board. So throughout the game itself is going to be played over 9 rounds. Each round will consist of 4 phases that are going to be handled in order, which I'll cover in the later part of this video where I'll show a sample turn. But as each round, the Fate player is going to select one of the cards from his or her hand, and then the other player is going to make a prediction on what card was selected. Once that is done, then the Fates player is going to place the card out on the spread. And where that player places it is going to depend on the cards that are already out there. As for example, let's say that the Fates player has the Errant card out initially at the beginning of the game, and this is going to be the case for your beginning games. From there, then a new card can only be placed above, below, or to the left or right if there's a spot open. If there's a token in that spot, then depending upon the type of token, you might not be able to place the card there. Other than that, that is going to restrict where the Fates player can play cards. Throughout the game, this is slowly going to fill up, giving the Fates player potentially more options. On the other side, the Last Sovereign player will have the Relic of the Old Gods, and this can be placed out anywhere that it has an open space that doesn't have another token on it. And this will block a space from having a card placed on it or moved onto it. Now, throughout the game, as cards are placed onto these different spaces as well, they are going to potentially become locked or bound. Anytime you have 2 cards that equal 10, when a card is placed, this is going to be looked at or at the end of each round, and a bound token will be placed on those cards. And this is going to happen at the end of each round. If a third token is placed, the cards are permanently locked and cannot be moved. With a single token on there or 2 tokens, then the cards cannot be flipped, but they can still be moved. If a card is moved with 1 or 2 bound tokens on it, then those tokens are simply going to be removed and returned to the supply. The final thing I want to do is take you through a sample turn to give you a better idea how the game plays. Now again, this game is going to be played over 9 rounds, and each round is going to consist of 4 phases that are going to be handled in order. Now, at the beginning of the game, the last sovereign player is going to start as an underdog or a disadvantaged player, but as the game goes on, that's going to slowly shift, hopefully in that player's favor, depending upon a little bit of luck and strategy and tactics that a player uses. So each game, at the beginning of each round, is going to start with the predict and reveal phase. During this phase, you're going to start with the last sovereign player, and that player is going to go through the tokens that that player has and select one of those tokens that that player feels is going to be matching the card that the Fates player is going to play. So I'm going to go ahead and predict that it's going to be number 4. So I'm going to go ahead and place this face down in front of me, and then once I have done that, then it's going to move over to the Fates player to select one of the cards that that player still has in their hand. And I think I'm going to go ahead and select number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and place this card face up in front of my player. And at this point, then the Fates player, or the last sovereign player, is going to reveal the token that that player selected. If the token matches, that means that the card is going to be played on its sanctified side. If the prediction was wrong, then the Fates player will get to play it on its corrupted side. So at this point, then it's going to move into this second phase in the round, which is placement and binding. During this phase, the Fates player is going to again play it based on what if the prediction was correct or not, on which side. So the prediction was incorrect, so I'm going to be playing it on the corrupted side, and I have to select a space to play it on. The game board is going to be broken down into 3 different columns: the high court, middle court, and low court. These columns can be the card can be played in an adjacent space to a card that is already out there, which again is going to be above, below, or to the left or right of that card if there's an opening to that. It can never be played on top of another card or on top of the relic of the dead god. So with my card, I could play it up here, I could place it here or here. If I play it on the middle court, then the token here is going to be played onto the last sovereign's card. If there's already a token there, then the token is simply discarded and lost. So this is part of the strategy of the Fates player sometimes, is to try to get those tokens when the other player has one already. So for my player, I think I'm going to go ahead and play it in the middle court, giving that player that token, but also opening up a lot more possibilities for later turns that I can play cards into. Once you've placed the card where you want it, then you're going to compare the numbers on the cards and add them together. If the cards add up to 10, then you're going to place a binding token on there, and that means that those cards cannot be flipped. Once you've resolved that, then you're ready to move into the third phase in the game, which is going to be the effects and sigil phase. During this phase, you're going to resolve the effects on the card you just played, and these effects are going to be dictated, or they're going to be handled based on the side of the card. You're always going to resolve the effects of a card for the corrupted side. So the Fates player will always resolve the effects on his side of the card first. Now, if the prediction was correct on the card, or the card is on its sanctified side, then the last sovereign player will get to handle his effects after that. So this particular card has a passive effect, and this card says it cannot be moved. Swiping counts as movement, so I won't be able to move this card at this point. And then there's a special ability on here, which is only going to be if the sanctified player, if this card is on its sanctified side, which is lets you choose which space the card is played in instead, which means that the last sovereign player would have gotten to choose that space. From here, then the final step is cleanup. So if you have anything that you have to discard or handle at this point, that is it. That is where you're going to resolve that. And you're ready to move into the next round of the game. Well, I hope you found the video helpful in deciding whether or not this is one you want to back on Kickstarter. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the Kickstarter's main page comment section and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creators would love to hear from you and are more than happy to answer any questions you have. And until next time, I'll see you later.